listening to AchieveRadio.com. A new drummer for a new awakening.
This is Anne Marie, and thank you so much for stopping by and watching in the archives or watching from the show at this time. I have posted on the Skype board as well as on Facebook the number to call in for a reading with Eric Linter is 602 666 6027. That's 602-666-6027. Watch us, join us on AchieveRadio.com or Achieve. Let me see. It's just go to Achieve Radio and there's Studio A, and you can watch it from there, or go to Studio TV and you can watch it live on YouTube. All right. So, Eric, are you there?
How are you?
I'm doing great. What's going on, Eric? No video today?
Well, yeah, over at my end I have video, but Bill had said I was all good, so I don't know what's going on.
Oh, well, I'm sure Bill will get it figured out. We're having some problems today, and I'm not sure. I have a new Saint Bernard puppy that came into our home, so my office has been turned into a playpen. And at this point, I lost my desk. So you're not being seen at this time, but I am being seen, and they'd probably much rather look at you than look at me with the way I look at this time. So what's going on? And this is it Mercury retrograde time?
Yes, we can
on?
blame Mercury retrograde, or maybe we should put the puppy on the screen. People love puppies. We are in the midst of a Mercury retrograde that began at the end of August, and that retrograde lasts until, let's see, I should know, the autumn equinox, September 22nd. So that, among other alignments, is creating a lot of challenges when it comes to communications these days.
I wonder, could you explain now? A lot of people that don't know anything about astrology, probably the same people that think that your birth sign is the only thing that matters, and it isn't. It's your, moon sign, your sun sign, or whatever else all about that. I don't. But those of us that know nothing about retrogrades, but suddenly it's become this big thing where retrograde is coming. Retrograde is coming. Even on Keen, where I work, was part of the time they said, "Oh, make sure that you do a lot of retrograde readings." And I'm thinking, geez Louise, I'm not even sure what retrograde is. All that I've got it figured out as is that it's sort of like a Murphy's Law. Whatever can go wrong will go wrong type thing.
Well, astrologers have warned for many centuries about Mercury's retrograde. But the truth of the matter is that most years there are 3 retrograde periods of Mercury. All of the planets, with the exception of the sun and the moon, retrograde, with on
Uh-huh.
on a regular basis. And what that it means is it's an illusion. They're not actually going backwards in their
Mm.
orbit, but it's rather a matter of how planets are positioned relative to each other and around the sun, so that they occasionally appear as though they're traveling backwards from our perspective here on Earth. I think of it as if you've ever ridden the subway in New York City, if you take the express train downtown, and
Mm.
there's a local on the track next to you, because you've got greater speed on the express, the local may look like it's actually traveling backwards. It's purely an illusion, and I am a big believer in the importance of positive thinking and right attitude. If you expect Mercury retrograde is going to create havoc in your life, it will. Again, the truth is it retrogrades 3 times each year. This year we're in the bonus. We get a fourth retrograde right at the
Well,
very
that's what
end.
I was going to say. It just seems like every time you turn around, they're saying there is one.
Yep, and they last for a little over 3 weeks. So basically, 18% of the time Mercury is retrograde, which means a whole lot of people, including myself, are born with Mercury retrograde. And many of the world's
Now, now,
greatest.
now, wait a minute, wait a minute. You're born with Mercury retrograde. What does
It,
that mean?
it means you're born during one of those 3 week windows, approximately 3 weeks, when Mercury is in its retrograde phase. And in different people's charts, it's going to manifest differently. Some years ago, an astrologer here in Boston did a wonderful study of Mercury retrograde in the charts of famous people. And literally, she must have listed 1,000 great writers and thinkers and politicians, philosophers born with Mercury retrograde. And the interesting thing about her study was that most of these people were born around the time when Mercury either began to travel retrograde or was just about to turn direct and resume its forward motion. Again,
Well,
I like to say, being a practical Capricorn, the bills always come on time. Some people act as though, everything's going to
yeah.
get lost, that the mail is going to suddenly stop being sent. All communications and contracts should be put on hold. But the world just does not stop for 3 weeks, and we have to learn to deal and make the best with these retrograde periods. There are some things that I think retrograde Mercury is almost ideally suited for, and one of them is reflecting on what has recently happened, reviewing, reconnecting, taking a look backwards and assessing what's going on, what has been happening, and maybe what you also need to do differently. So everything has its purpose. Nothing is inherently bad or faulty. It's part of the divine plan, if you will.
Well, that's the one thing, Eric, that it makes sense to me is that if everything's going to go wrong, let's say the tires get a flat or your computer starts glitching out or the camera or whatever, maybe that's just a good sign that you need some new tires or you need a new computer or all of these things. Though actually, it's kind of a chance to get things right.
For many of us, it is. I had an experience many years ago where Mercury was in one of its retrogrades and it was on the verge of turning direct. It was literally going to be that day. And I thought to myself, wow, I made it through another retrograde and very little has happened. And the day after it turned or resumed forward motion. And keep in mind, when planets change direction, it's not like your car where you go from park, to reverse or reverse to park and then drive. These are large objects in space. They slow down, they come to a halt and hover for several days, sometimes for weeks, depending on which planet is involved. And then they gradually pick up momentum, whether it's the start of the retrograde or the start of its forward motion. And so here is Mercury about to resume its forward motion. It's theoretically begun to move forward, and both my car and my phone answering machine broke down.
Oh, weird.
Yeah,
It's-
so I have an attitude about Mercury retrograde. I call it God's cosmic joke. The joke is always on us. And I think we shouldn't make more of it than we need to, because as I say, I think we can invite trouble if we're pessimists and expecting bad things to happen.
Exactly. If your thinking is such that if you get back what you put out, then the last thing you want to do is start concentrating on, oh my gosh, everything. Yeah, yeah. I totally agree with you. And, but everything catches up with astrology at the last, like I don't remember years ago talking about retrograde. And now it seems like, oh, yeah, it's retrograde, And I just think that it's kind of like newspapers that broadcast astrology forecasts on one thing that you're born on, and tell us why that isn't an accurate.
Well, if, first of all, to think that every Scorpio is going to have the same kind of day, week, or month is very misleading. The same can be said for any of the signs. It's just too general. The birth chart alone, which is effectively a map of the planets at the time you're born, seen from that place of birth, is unique to you. It's like your DNA or your thumbprint. And as you mentioned, there are factors like the moon sign, the rising sign, other planetary placements, which make a huge difference in terms of, how we experience life. Even people who share the same birthday, born at different times, are going to have different rising signs, and potentially they might have planets even in different signs, because planets do change signs, and especially the moon, which moves the fastest, covers quite a bit of ground each day. I prefer, when I do my forecast articles, to write a general description of just the mood, the energy that really impacts all of us. We all experience full moon energy, and while we may work differently with that energy, we all generally feel the kind of increasing speed and anxiety and excitement that builds with each full moon.
And that would make sense because we have salt in our blood, and if it affects animals and their entire ritual of mating and things, and I think that the tide and the way that the ocean comes in and out at tide, it would seem to make sense to me that a full moon could also react in a chemistry way too to our body, couldn't it?
Yes, certainly. We are mostly water, so to think we're not
Right.
affected like the tides are, and even groundwater comes closer to the surface at the time of a full moon. One thing I'm often asked to do by clients is to tell them when is a good time to have surgery. And I generally will encourage people to avoid a few days before and after the full moon, because swelling and bleeding tend to be more pronounced at that
Oh, and
time of the month.
that would make sense, not because it's something spooky, but because it just makes sense that, like anything else to do with, the tide or things like that, your swelling um, will happen. I've been told that my audio sound is not in sync with my video, but yours is perfect. So that's a good thing. So I'm experiencing something here too. And we are live on YouTube. So those of you that want to watch us on YouTube or want to watch the show on uh, Achieve TV, just go to that link. Otherwise, again, the number to call in for a reading is 602-666-6027. And we have Debbie from Pennsylvania, Casey from Ohio. We have Karen from New York. We have Jan from LA. And we have and you're really getting probably a view of the upside of my nostrils because I am looking down in my camera today. So we have Virginia from Cincinnati, and we have Amanda from St. Louis. So let's get started on some readings, okay?
Sure.
People, please do remember, Eric, what do they need to tell you?
Ideally, I need to know your date of birth, the time you were born, and the place, meaning the city or town.
So please understand that if you wish to have a reading, and I will let Eric and I will take turns on this. And again, we have a new one. We have Sandy. Thank you guys for being there for us. Let's start out and kind of go reverse today, Debbie. We have every week, and I just know that we are going to get to you, Debbie, and we love you. But let's start out with some just a little kind of haphazard today, just because it's retrograde. Sandy from Connecticut, how and what can Eric do for you today? And please give your birth sign or not birth sign, your birth date and stuff like that.
Yeah, the date, time, and place.
Okay, the date is 12/25/51, December 25th, 1951. The time was 3 minutes after 12, St. Raphael's Hospital, New Haven, Connecticut.
And was that in the morning after 12 or the afternoon?
Morning.
So in the middle of the night.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Eric, would you like me to go ahead and do a small reading?
I'll pull up Sandy's chart and take a look.
Okay, Sandy, I'm going to give you just a brief little energy reading while Eric does a dun, 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 and we'll get through here. And so, Sandy, here's what comes through. Your energy lately, and I'm not sure why it's coming through, but it says some of the stuff that you've been doing for friendships, or maybe it's just things that you've been doing with business connections. I'm not sure which it is. Feels a little like you're kind of on low energy right now, as if you feel that you're really starting to assess who's worth your time and who is not. And your reading says to not be surprised if you find that those that are not being there for you, my gosh, girl, you shouldn't have to be there for them. And so your reading is saying, have no doubt that if you feel stumped, blocked, or feel as if you're just not willing to go out of your way for some of the people that have not gone out of the way for you, honey, then that says this is just your new chapter of life saying, move on from those and maybe they'll start to appreciate you more. What do you have, Eric?
Well, I see that Sandy is on the verge of some very big new beginnings. You are a Libra rising, Sandy. This is the sign of relationship, which tends to emphasize the importance of partnering in any person's life. But Jupiter on Friday, the 9th of September, enters Libra for a 1-year stay. And you also were born with 3 planets in that sign. So it's going to be a very busy fall and winter for you, socially, and a lot of family things to take care of and attend to. In a good way. It's a good time if you're looking to remodel or expand, or in other ways make your home a more comfortable place to be. Those activities are definitely going to be supported.
Are you outside by the ocean or something? It seems like I'm hearing seagulls in the background.
It's some type of background noise. I have no idea where it's coming from. It's actually quite quiet where I am.
Yeah,
Eric,
that might be over where I am. We're actually getting a little bit of rain, and the cars are zooming by. So I'm going to close the window. That'll reduce that noise.
No problem. I thought it sounded rather pleasant, but anyway. So how did you feel about that, Sandy?
I think that it all falls right into place with what you said last week. I called you last week. I caught you right at the very end of your show. I was very upset. I wanted to thank you. I can't tell you how much you made me feel good. I felt more relaxed after your reading and you telling me how it's a new beginning and it's all for the good. And I felt
like here's Eric telling you the same thing.
Yes, that's what was amazing, and my true Reeza, I wanted to so thank you in person for helping me. And thank you for the
Aw.
reading you did for me. It went right into what you said. I am going to get better. I have been feeling better ever since I spoke to you.
And what about Eric's about the new things that he sees for you? Does that feel in sync with you too?
Well, he started saying, but then all that static came, so I kind of missed a little bit of it, but it sounded as though he was saying it actually is all new beginnings, and I lost some of what he said because the static on my end was so bad I couldn't get his voice.
Well,
Can you say?
yeah, I can repeat quickly that think of it as the start of a new 12-year growth cycle. Opportunity often accompanies the transit that really begins this Friday and will continue into the fall months. And have staying power because Jupiter spends about a year in each sign. And when it's in the first house area, good things tend to come our way. Opportunity knocks, confidence grows, and that in turn attracts more options, and much depends on your own inner vision. But I always encourage people to ask the universe and anybody else who's listening to ask for what they want. This is kind of a launching pad for this new 12 years of
Ah.
growth. You have some other influences that have been rather, sobering and perhaps even depressing in recent months, but this is going to help offset some of your fears and insecurities and go a long way towards attracting a better life situation for you.
Oh, that I can't tell you how wonderful that is. After being, kind of homebound because I can't drive and being in pain for 9 months, and then this, and after speaking to her last week and feeling I felt better all week, and then hearing this, you guys actually got me looking forward to the holidays. I can't believe it. I was very down when I called last week. You guys just have me so happy and lighthearted right now. Thank you.
You're
Well, thank you.
welcome. Have a good week, honey. We're gonna let you go there, and you just jump around and dance and remember to keep putting out that good energy so you get a lot of good stuff back. Okay.
Bless you both. Thank you very much for your help. Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye now. You're
Goodbye.
welcome.
I'm going to take one more call and then I'm going to jump into the in quick. Please do remember that we do take phone calls first, but we will get to Karen from New York and we will get to everybody else as fast as we can. We might have to do some lightning round readings here, hon, to get everybody. So, Casey from Ohio, how are you today?
Oh, excellent. Excellent. How about you?
Great. What can Eric?
Yeah, quick question. Just general reading about
Wait.
finances, things like that.
Okay, so Eric needs a little bit of information from you. Eric?
Yeah, what's your date of birth, Casey?
October 21st, 1965. Was born 9:36 a.m., Cleveland, Ohio.
And you said
Okay.
9:36 a.m.?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Casey, well, Eric pulls up your chart and stuff. Here's what comes through. It says a major focus that was in your past is going to give you a great opportunity to be able to go in a new direction for yourself, but don't expect everybody to applaud for you. I think there may be some people that are, you may have to kind of leave a career situation or leave some kind of dynamic behind you as an opportunity rears its head for a new chance to make money and be more ambitious towards your goals. But it does say that you may find either A, that this is something you can do from home or do from an office that allows you to not have to be around other people, or it's something that you may have to leave some other people behind you to do. Eric.
Casey, what kind of work do you do?
I'm leaving a collections job, and I do start Monday a sleep tech job. So it's a totally different. totally different switch. So I'm going to be working with patients trying to help them sleep better.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, Jupiter is about to enter your sun sign Libra. And since ancient times, this has been viewed as the planet of good fortune and opportunity. It's seen as very protective, often called lucky. In my opinion, is slightly different. I think when we have an opportunity that comes our way during one of these transits, it's because we've earned it. But there really couldn't be a better omen for starting a new job for you at this time. I do see some other issues in your horoscope chart that suggest there are certain family members who are not as supportive as you would like them and need them to be. And that could involve some kind of jealousy factor or, just insecurity or need on their part. So you have to be strong and focused in pursuing what you know is right for you.
Yeah, that does seem sort of thick here. I'm sorry, somebody running back to me here at the office, but another thing too that I do see a little something going on too is my mom recently moved. My wife online found the house she bought, and I found the seller online that bought her house. Yet the older of my two sisters drew up the paperwork, and she got paid by my mom, and we didn't get anything, even though we did a lot of the work. We found the house she bought. We found the buyer for the house she had. So my wife and I were not really happy about that. So
no.
Yeah, so that was kind of aggravating. So.
But on the other hand, it seems to be that your new job will be something that is satisfying for you.
That's always good to hear.
And I think the best thing you can do with your sister is just move on from it and not let it rob your joy.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good luck with your new work.
I'm going to go to a person, Karen, from New York, and she says, hello, Anne-Marie and Eric. Hope all is well with you. There is, she doesn't have any kind of date or anything. But she is from New York, and it's in quick. So can you help on that? It says, hope all is well with you. There's a young man that I've gotten to know. We talk often. What is his intentions? Or I'm sensing something more. What is, does there any way to look at in the Karen, who has left no birth sign or birth date or anything like that, from New York area? Is there any way that... Probably not, huh?
Well, there is a technique in astrology called horary astrology, which essentially says when you hear the question, you do a chart, you look at that chart, and it gives you the answer, again, based on the time that the question is asked. So it's kind of watered down because ideally I'd be getting the question directly from Karen, but I can work with the chart I have right now.
Okay. So do you want me to go ahead, or do you want me to...
Why don't you go first, because that's how we usually do it.
Okay. All right. Okay, hon. So, Karen, when I look at this young man that you've gotten to know, and what is his intention for you, and again, I usually read on first names, but Karen, we're just going to go for what we see here, and it says... This young man seems to have been pretty good at not being real ambitious about getting involved in the past, either because he was involved with somebody in the past, or there is a sense he had no interest. He sees you as incredibly grounded and easy to be with. He sees you as somebody that he can communicate with, and he's pretty happy about that. But the biggest problem I see, and I don't know whether, Karen, this is about him his issues or whether it's your issues, but it says there are trust factors. And one of the things it says is that perhaps if he has not been ambitious about taking opportunity to get involved, it could indicate that he is already with somebody, and that you may find in the future that despite the fact that he's treating you well and communicating well, that something comes along that kind of says, oh, this is somebody that's looking to cheat on somebody. The other thing could be that maybe you have some trust issues or he has some trust issues, but I'll let Eric go from there. What do you see, Eric?
Well, amen to you, sister, because the chart I pulled up showed big time trust issues. We've been dealing with a very difficult and persisting alignment between Saturn and Neptune since last November. And I commented at that time, and we talked on your show at one point or another about how in this year of election and campaigning, there's this climate of mistrust, and it's so difficult to get news that you can believe in and think that the source is legitimate. And the same applies in our personal relationships. And currently, that square between Saturn and Neptune is nearly exact. And again, it's just a breeding ground for confusion, doubt, and mistrust. And in the current chart this evening, it's kind of shouting out at me how difficult it is to proceed in any kind of relationship with certainty, clarity, and knowing that the person you're dealing with is really on the up and up. And adding to that, much of what you said about the likelihood that he is still involved with someone else, he hasn't totally released this other person, seems very strong. And I would proceed with utmost caution. I don't think he's able to clearly see Karen. I'm not sure that Karen herself is clear about what she's getting into. And under these circumstances, I would proceed very, very slowly.
And we're not trying to be a downer on you, Karen, but that's what comes through. Okay, so I'm going to go quickly to the phone room again. We have Kay from Hawaii. Hi, Kay. What can Eric do for you, and what is your birth date and time of birth?
Birth date is 6/25/57. Time is 2:58 a.m. Was there anything else you needed?
The place.
Berkeley, California.
Great.
Okay, Kate. Is there anything specific you would like me to look at for you? Well, Eric does that. Shall I? Oh, okay.
I'm sorry,
What'd you
I can't
say?
hear.
Oh, I said, is there anything specific you would like me to look at, or do you want me just to pick up what I see?
Pick up what you see, please.
All righty. So if I look at what comes up for you, Kay, this is what comes through. It says you're a very magnetic person. And there's a sense that sometimes in your zest and in your incredible desire to be in a place of excellence, it's not unusual for some people to be intimidated by you. This is compounded by the fact that you're incredibly honest, and that it shows that all the things that seem to be reaching out for you as new opportunities in 2017 are going to also be things that maybe some people go, well, wait a minute, what about me? Or just feel a little bit intimidated by you. So don't be upset if you're just incredibly awesome and find some people run from you, especially in relationships, and that it's not because you're not perfect enough, it's just maybe you're a little too perfect. And that's what I have. What do you have, Eric?
Well, Kay, you've just completed a Saturn return, and this is a major astrological event. We have them roughly every 29 years in life. The first time around, it's a coming of age where we essentially enter adulthood with an understanding that we're not kids anymore. We've been around the block and we truly know ourselves. Everybody has a second Saturn return between ages 56 and 60. And again, it's a powerful event that precipitates a lot of inner reflection and soul searching, often thinking about what we've accomplished, but also where we have fallen short of the mark. And so people sometimes respond by getting down on themselves. In other cases, they recommit more fully to their goals and their ambitions. They may, in fact, redefine their whole life path. It's a time to let go of ideas and relationships and things that no longer serve you. And as I said earlier, one of the complicating factors is that Saturn, for many months now, has been tied up in a square, a testing angle with the planet of confusion and dreams, Neptune. So you may be feeling a certain amount of uncertainty in terms of what the right next step for you is. And honestly, it could be a few more months, even as long as, Christmas time, before everything sorts out and you get a renewed sense of momentum. But if things are ending around you, it's time to let them go. Don't hold on. Sometimes people born under the sign of Cancer are guilty of clinging to situations and people who really aren't necessarily so good for them.
Okay, Kate?
Okay. Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right, we've got Jan from LA, and unfortunately, she does not have her birth date, but it says that may I have a reading on whatever comes up. So Jan is from LA. So I'll just have you do what you did for the other person, and I'll tell you what comes up for Jan on this side. So Jan, this is what comes up on your reading today. Your reading says that something that you had been incredibly focused and supportive and felt like was your be-all, end-all vendetta for your life suddenly has lost focus. And there's a sense that you're feeling maybe that you're less secure about what you thought you wanted to put your intentions and priorities on. So I guess putting that in a nutshell, what it's saying is that don't be surprised if something that you had on your wall as a rock star for either job or relationship suddenly isn't shining as bright and is just seeming as if it's not as relevant to your life. There just seems to be a feeling that something new is coming, something that seems as if it's going to offer more, and whatever was, but it says don't be afraid to let go of something you used to want very much just because it was so much invested time and thought and energy. If it isn't there anymore and it's losing its priority to you, go ahead and let it go. Okay, Eric, what do you have?
Well, I agree with you, Anne Marie. I think goals are changing, and it's time to reevaluate what may have been a long-term ambition, but it needs to be reviewed and revamped. Again, with this retrograde Mercury, it's a perfect time to be rethinking both objectives and the strategies for reaching them. The other thing that jumps out at me is the importance of good company, because I think that, Jan may have some issues with people around her who distract or otherwise rob her energy. It may be an issue around substance abuse, other diversions that can kind of waylay her and knock her literally off course. So there are also, I think, individuals who can be very powerful allies. And so there has to be some real discernment about who's truly a friend and in a position to be helpful, and who ultimately is just a distraction.
That makes sense to me. Well, Jan, that's what we have, and we're sticking to it. And I'd like to, if you would, Eric, maybe you could discuss, for my pleasure, some of the things that have to do with the coming political movement or things that you may feel surrounding Trump and Hillary.
Well, honestly, I'm not a huge fan of either candidate.
I know you are.
I think many Americans are feeling kind of disaffected. But the heart of the matter is that there's something bigger in play where we see the institutions, including both political parties, literally falling apart before our eyes. So many mainstream or mainline Republicans have kind of fled the party after Trump.
Why do you think that is happening?
Well,
I mean,
I think
is
our
there an astrological planet
yeah,
alignment or something?
yeah, there is. The planet Pluto is involved here. Pluto has to do, even though the astronomers say it's not a planet, Pluto has to do with transformational forces. And when it visits a sign, it tends to stir up and create an examination of everybody's dirty laundry. So back in the fall of 2008, Pluto entered Capricorn, the sign of big government and big business. And you may recall this was the era where George Bush was preparing to leave office, and he came before the nation and said, "The banks are failing. I need a blank check for Wall Street. You guys are on the hook for however many, hundreds of millions, billions of dollars." To me, that was one of the biggest, con jobs in history. But and a lot of people in both political parties were not happy with what happened, but they managed to ram through the bills for the bailout, and the process continues. Our institutions are bending to the breaking point, and the political parties are just two examples. The consolidation of power, the misuse of power, these are all Plutonian themes. And when the United States declared independence back in 1776, Pluto was in Capricorn. And over the next few years, Pluto is moving, it's inching closer. It moves very slowly, but it's returning to the position it occupied on July 4th, 1776. And, we're starting to see the implications of this. Historically, many empires have collapsed during their Pluto return. And so, on a very deep spiritual level, we're all confronted with some questioning about, the values of our nation, what we think about our Constitution, the role of the U.S. in the world. And these churning forces are going to continue to really tear, across class and party lines and stir people up. And ultimately, they may trigger some form of revolution. I hope it's more of a rebirth than just a, violent confrontation in the streets. But
Okay, I have
but
a
I think
question.
this explains the appeal of both Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump, because so many people are just fed up with the status quo.
And here's the thing for me, Eric. Being a woman, and I know that there are many Bernie Sanders people that weren't into women, I honor the is that we may be walking into a time when three major countries are run by three women, three crones instead of men. And that has an intrigue for me, and it's not something I think our country or any country has seen or in ever, where Germany, England, and America has a possibility of being run by women. And so for me, I guess I would like to know, is there any kind of planetary alignment? Let's say even if Hillary doesn't get it, the fact that two major countries are being run, or having huge feminine influence, is there anything that's saying that it may be time for a estrogen attack?
Well, obviously a lot of women are happy to see, women assuming positions of power. And personally, I think it's an idea whose time has come. The argument is being made that this shows the ascendancy of a matriarchal, feminine energy after so many thousands of years of patriarchy. And again, we've done a pretty good job of screwing things up. So as a man, I'm willing to see, other people try. The problem, as I see it, is that our government and governments around the world are being co-opted by corporate power. And things like the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Trade Agreement, give more and more power to these corporations to have secret tribunals and sue countries and override their law, the laws of individual countries, their environmental protections, their union laws. It's all largely in the service of corporate profits and against things like the environment and unions and institutions that historically have protected common people and working class people. So someone like Hillary has been instrumental in creating the TPP. She was ardently for it, and then because of Bernie Sanders coming out against it, and the fact that things like NAFTA have hurt so many factory jobs and union jobs across, especially the Midwest, she's changed her tune. Whether she'll
Actually, Eric, it's not just that has changed the tune for the packing houses and things. I was one of those people, and it's more about you know what has happened through the infiltration of so many immigrants being brought in that pushed so many established people out. I was one of those people. And I watched, but that isn't the problem of the immigrants. That's the problem of the corporations. That's them not honoring anybody but the cheapest way of labor. But I'm as a part of that whole scene. I do want to say though that if I think that Sanders did help Hillary to see a new light in a lot of things. And I think that the main thing is, despite the fact that there is an opportunity for 3 matriarchal figures to take over, I also believe that we are coming to a time where all of the old leaders are now going to be on their last years of service. And I believe that even Sanders, even Trump, even Hillary, these are all people that are going to see their last years. And my feeling is that it's going to be a whole new generation that's moving in after these guys. So I think it's kind of like whatever happens, happens. And I think that from now on, we are going to see the new generation take over, don't you think?
Well, I think we have a long way to go. I think it's going to take about 15 years before things really sort out and Pluto gets into a new sign, Aquarius, which is the sign of community and friendship, and also happens to be the moon sign of the USA. That whole idea, inscribed on the Statue of Liberty, about send us you're weak, you're poor, you're tired. This is all very Aquarian, themed sentiment, and the American ideal about embracing people of different religions and cultures and backgrounds is all very Aquarian. It's a very egalitarian sign. But how we get there is the question. And again, whether it's a woman running the show or a man, what's most important to me is their values. Matriarchy is a wonderful thing, but if it serves the greater good, that's what's most important.
And then we have to also realize that at least in our country, the president is only a puppet of the Congress.
Well, I think they're all a puppet of the corporations at this point. They're all beholden, to getting enough money to run for election. And
right.
With this whole Citizens United thing, where money is speech and corporations are people, it's all nonsense.
Well, our opinions aside, it sounds like that we are coming to a time where we're going to see some things crash and new things surface. And maybe the Libertarian Party is one of those things that's going to surface and become more powerful. And maybe there's going to be things that, whatever happens, I feel that it's going to be a very interesting time. And I think that we are seeing the last of, and if I, and why don't you just do a quick on that, just on that question and see what comes up for you. What can we expect in the new presidential, um, you know, years coming up? Despite who's there, what is the energy, or what is the, do your stuff. What is the energy dynamic that comes through?
Well, one of the big themes, with this Jupiter arrival in Libra, Libra is the sign of balance and fair play. And that's something that I think we're going to see a lot of politicians talking about in the coming year. The whole idea that the playing field is not level, that rich people have an inherent advantage. Too much is being channeled to too few. And I hope that there will voluntarily be some kind of a course correction, because, we need roads, we need schools, we need healthcare to have a strong society and a healthy nation. And, the placement of Jupiter in Libra puts it in a harmonizing angle with the U.S. moon in Aquarius. The moon in a country's chart symbolizes the people. And we want to see, the people happy. We want to see the people prosper. But the Jupiter placement also tests the Cancer Sun in the U.S. chart. So clearly priorities have to shift. And I'm hopeful that, Hillary Clinton will be both victorious in the autumn election and institute some of these needed changes.
And what comes through for me on the new presidential reign, I'm going to say, whoever it is, it says, from ambition and procrastination and wasted time, from negativity will come a new attitude that attracts success and positive people with a better attitude. It says that the coming reign, for whoever is in, is going to be one that is worthy, a new use of talents that will help achieve new dreams, and that there will also be a more grounded and centered time, despite there will be emotional upsets everywhere. It is seeming to, whoever is in, go into a more centered and grounded energy. Lastly, it says it's also going to be very chaotic, because as things change and as there begins to be people trying to get things back on track, it's always going to be the people that are fighting their ambitions and their intellect and their priorities and their logic. So despite the fact that it looks like the next reign for me, I do not see a world war or anything like that, but I do see a better time, whoever is in. And that the main thing, though, that we can't seem to shake is this sense that everybody just keeps butting heads. But other than that, I'm seeing a shift away from procrastination, negativity, and that's what I'm seeing.
Well, again, astrologically, I think there are certain alignments. Notably, the Saturn-Neptune square is going to start to break up after the election. And that, I think, has contributed a lot to the gridlock of the past year. But, much of that has been going on for many years at this point, the lack of
Eric,
cooperation.
Would you honor us with the robe of light prayer before we go?
I would happily share the robe of light. I'm always good for the robe of light, Anne-Marie.
Okay, you go.
So here we go. This is a wonderful prayer for healing and protection. It's called the robe of light, and it goes like this. I clothe myself in a robe of light, composed of the love, power, and wisdom of God, not only for my own protection, but so that all who see it or come in contact with it will be drawn to God and healed. Amen.
Amen. And that goes right along with retrograde, saying put out some good thoughts. Don't get lost in the word retrograde and believe that everything is going to go wrong. On the other hand, there are some things like all the things that you were talking about that may happen, but it doesn't mean that your attitude has to go to hell. And Eric, where can people reach you after the show if they want?
They can email me at stars@ericlinter.com, and my website is ericlinter.com. And you can
And
also
you,
find my daily forecasts online at the spiritofchange.org website.
that's what I was thinking. Yep. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Eric. And
Thanks for having me, and
thanks.
enjoy the rest of the summer.
All right. And take care. Bye
You too.
bye.
Bye now.